The best faction in Andromeda's Edge is the Darkstar Acolytes. This mystic group of individuals, there's only a few left. They're gathering around the prophet, and they're calling upon the power of the underworld. What does that mean in Andromeda's Edge? Well, this faction is traveling to the edge to try and tap into unknown power, sacrificing their own ships in order to get to a ghostly presence in Andromeda, and whatever that means, they're going to try and gather ultimate power at the edge. It's a beautifully illustrated faction by Sergio Chavez. He showed us that you don't even need to show a sci-fi scene to create an evocative moment, a faction that you're instantly got the vision of. All these mysterious beings are kind of worshiping a science vessel called the Prophet, but they are immediately get this sense of this society that they are. And your powers, or I should say power, you only get one. This is the only faction that only has one. It's called Ghostly Presence. And the reason why you only get one is because it's epic. Now, in Ghostly Presence, what that means is on your return to station, if you have no ships in your launch bay, you are going to get a free action on an Alliance base that's unoccupied. And since there are 6 different Alliance bases in the game, that's huge. If you are pulling back and you're like, well, there's the trade hub, I can change any 2 things into credits. Now I'm going to have some resources when I pop back out. You could spend any 2 resources to go to the Monolith of the Ancients and get tactics cards, which are one of the greatest powers in the game. You can use the Maximus Field to get science modules or industry modules. You can use the Odessa Field to get commerce modules or Civ modules. You can use the development office to build a development even if you couldn't reach it during your turn, which means you don't need a large armada. You can have very, very flexible turns with the ghost ship. And the ghost ship can pick up a leader, by the way. It's like you're on that planet. It's like you're having a turn there. So it's really fun to have that turn. But it's an advanced play because you're going to need to have very, very few ships. You're going to want to, like I said, sacrifice, but I mean, get rid of your transports by building developments so that you have barely any ships left, and all you've got is a ship to come back and forth and activate the Ghostly Presence. Now, if you need a really good ship to do this, the special ship of the Darkstar Acolytes is called the Prophet. This is that science vessel we're talking about. It's a science vessel that wants to know the secrets of the universe. So like all science vessels, you can voyage with it into the nebula and look at the top 2 events that are coming up and choose one to be at the top and one to be at the bottom. And that's, of course, powerful for any science vessel. But you're also going to be able to grab the best moons. And if that's your primary way of getting around, the Prophet is going to be great. But its secret power is called dark matter. Now, if you get into trouble in Andromeda's Edge, say you run into the nebula and you run into a giant raider and it destroys you. But no fear, dark matter says that as long as your science vessel is in the scrapyard, you repair all of your ships on a return to station. And that is a flexibility that no other faction has. It's basically meaning that no matter if you win or lose combats, you're going to be able to activate your engine. That's important because you're going to have a very tiny armada to use and you're going to want to maximize it. So you're not limited by, oh, that one's broken, so I can't use it this turn. The Prophet means you can just have your ships kind of get into fights, get those good resources, but don't care if they live because the Prophet says you can use your entire engine on the way back. And probably for this faction, you're going to want to build science because you're going to get a lot of energy that way and go for long rows of modules where your 1 or 2 ships are going to be able to use all that energy and activate everything. If you can figure that out as a faction, you're going to tap so much power in this game, you're going to be unstoppable. I love playing the Darkstar Acolytes. It's a challenging faction, so it makes me feel really good to play them and to think of really clever ways of using the Ghostly Presence. Because you have to kind of watch the board, you have to wait for that exact timing. You have to get out of ships, which is not easy to do, and you have to build an engine that's very specific to use very few ships. But it feels great when you can pull it off. When you're completing the ritual, I get into cult mode. I don't actually dress differently or anything, but I get into the mindset of I am playing a worker placement game completely different than everybody else. I want low workers and I want powerful turns. And when you can pull that off with the Darkstar Acolytes, you truly feel like you've tapped into something. It's an absolute fun faction to play, and it's part of our escalation expansion.